Okay, so today we are going to start with the 17th chapter of your business studies, that is financial management. Now, till now, we had done uh, how the business companies or an entrepreneur needs finance to start their companies and all, how we can obtain finances, long term, medium term, and short term finances. So after obtaining the finances to carry out your businesses, then we have this next chapter, that is financial management. Now, first of all, an entrepreneur should know how much finance is needed uh, for his company. Then, how to manage those finances, right? So now, the first topic is objectives of financial management. The main objective of financial management is to maximize the wealth of shareholders. Obviously, why do we start a business? To earn, right? But we earn while doing a job also. So here, business to earn the maximum as much as we can. While doing a job under someone else, we can earn only whatever salary we have signed or we have contracted for, right? But here in business, there is no limit to how much you can earn, right? The greater the profit, the more earnings you have. So in financial management is done to maximize the wealth of the shareholders, right? Because the shareholders are the people who have invested, who have built up the capital to start the business. So they should get as much as possible interest on the money that they have invested. The other, because if the shareholders get a good return on investment, then they are going to invest more and more in the company. So that is why the main objective of financial management is to maximize the wealth of shareholders. The other important objectives of financial management are: number one, to provide maximum returns to the owners on their investment. This is the same thing. Whatever they have invested, they should get as much as possible, maximum returns. Second, to ensure continuous availability of sufficient funds at reasonable cost. Plus, financial management, as the word says, you manage your finances. So you have to manage it so that there is a continuous availability. We don't face any crisis regarding money, right? Third, to ensure effective utilization of funds, and so that whatever funds we have, we utilize it effectively. No wastage is there. And fourth, to ensure safety of funds. There is no loss. So that is why management of finances is very important. Now, decisions relating to investment, financing, and dividend. Now, first is investment decision. This decision involves careful selection of assets in which funds have to be invested. Decision relating to investment in fixed assets, capital budgeting, and decision relating to investment in current asset, working capital, are considered here. Now, for example, if you just take a small unit, that is one family, right? Now, father is earning money, monthly income he's getting, and he gives it to mother. She is doing the financial management of the house. Now, first is investment decision that she has to do. Like, now here we can read, this decision involves careful selection of assets in which funds have to be invested. Obviously, now the mother has a limited amount of money which father has given her. Now she has to decide what things have to be bought for the house, right? So it is not that mama will take money and she'll go in the market and just spend money on everything. Ah, I like this, I'm going to take this. I like that, I'm going to take that. No, she's going to decide what is the priority, right? What is most important, without which she cannot manage the house, right? This is managing the finances. Similarly, in a company, in a business also, they have to decide, they have to select assets in which funds have to be invested. You can buy many things, but what is the priority? that asset will be decided or chosen, like with this money we are going to buy these assets. Now, when we plan to buy any fixed asset, then that is called capital budgeting. That is a capital investment. And when we decide to putting in money in current assets, that is called working capital, like raw material and all, right? Investment decisions are influenced by cash flow, risk involved, technological changes, etc. Right? If there is less cash flow, obviously your investment decisions will be influenced. You will be cutting down your assets in which you will be investing. If greater the risk, the more you will cut down. Lesser risk, you'll invest more. Then technological changes also. All these things they influence your decisions of investing. Second is financing decision. This decision relates to the proportion in which funds are raised from various sources. Factors like cost of fund, risk involved, control, cash flow, etc. are considered before taking financial decision. Now, what are financing decision? This decision relates to the proportion in which funds are raised from various sources. Now, in earlier chapters, we have learned how we raise funds from different sources. Now, you have to make a list on from where you can raise funds, right? And in from every factor, from wherever you are thinking of raising funds, you will consider the cost, the risk involved, the controls, and cash flow, etc. You will take all these factors into consideration, right? And then you will decide ki bhai, from this factor we'll raise this much fund. From here, from banks, we'll take this much loan. From public, we are going to try to raise this much fund. From special financial institutions, we are going to take this much loan. You are going to take all these cost of raising the fund, the risk involved, and all these factors into consideration, and you will decide how much money is to be raised from different sources. In financing decision, the firm has to decide the ratio of owned funds and borrowed funds. Owned funds are equity share capital, preference share capital, and retained earnings. And borrowed funds are debentures, loans, and public deposits. Why? Because you have borrowed it, right? It is not yours. So you have to also decide what is the ratio. 1:2 ratio, like owned funds 1, then double will be borrowed funds, or 3:4 if you are taking a third of the owned funds. Like, you have to decide the ratio, how much owned funds and how much borrowed funds will be there. Divided decision. This decision is concerned with appropriation of earned profits. This profit of the firm can be retained in the business or can be distributed to the shareholders as dividend. A company has to decide how much profits should be distributed as dividend and how much should be retained for future business growth. Factors affecting dividend decision are cash flow position, stability of earnings, growth opportunities, etc. Now, we have learned in the previous chapter that the company plans on saving a part of the profit, like whatever profit a company gets, it distributes it among the shareholders, because obviously the shareholders have need a return on their investment, which is given to them from the profit the company earns. So either you can give out or distribute the entire profit to the shareholders, or in fact, a more intelligent thing is to save a part of the profit, and the rest you distribute among the shareholders. Now, whatever profit you save, this we have done earlier in the previous chapter, that is again put back into the business, again invested in the business for further growth of the business. right? So now this also has to be decided, that how much should be retained to reinvest in the business and how much should be distributed. So this is divided decision. So these are the three decisions related to managing the finances: investment decision, financing decision, and divided decision. Then we have financial planning. You know that planning is a systematic way of deciding about and doing things in a purposeful manner. When this approach is applied exclusively for financial matter, it is termed as financial planning. Obviously, you plan everything. When you go for a picnic also, you plan, right? How we are going to travel to that place. First of all, which place we have to go, how many people will go, at what time will we go, when will we go, for how many hours are we going to stay there, what are we going to take, what games are we going to. So you plan out everything for a simple picnic also. So this is planning, systematic way of deciding how to do the things, right? And when you plan about financial matters, then it is called financial planning. In connection with any business enterprise, it refers to the process of estimating a firm's financial requirements and determining pattern of financing. Now, when we talk about business, then financial planning is what? To decide or to estimate how much finance is required by the business, right? It includes, and from where are we going to get the finance also? It includes determining the objectives, policies, procedures, and programs to deal with financial activities. Thus, financial planning involves A, estimating the amount of capital to be raised, how much capital is required by the business. B, determining the pattern of financing, that is, from where are we going to raise the finances and in what proportion are we going to raise. C, and formulating the financial policies and procedures for procurement, allocation, and effective utilization of funds. What are the financial policies? How are we going to raise the capital? And how are we going to utilize whatever capital will be raised? How are we going to utilize the funds? Now, objectives of financial planning. Why do we uh, do this financial planning? Now, the main objectives are to ascertain the amount of fixed capital as well as working capital required in a given period. Obviously, we have to calculate how much fixed capital is needed, that is the capital invested in fixed assets, and how much working capital is needed. Second, to determine the amount to be raised through various sources using a judicious debt equity mix. And plus, we also have to decide uh, from different sources, because we have many sources from which finances can be raised. So, how much is going to be raised from the different sources? To ensure that the required amount is raised on time at the lowest possible cost. And plus, we also financial planning is also done in order so that whatever finances are to be raised, then it should be done within a time limit, right? To avoid cost, to make it cost effective, it has to be ensured that everything is done within time. Then D, to ensure adequate liquidity so that there are no defaults in payments and all contingencies are met without difficulty. Now, financial planning is also done to ensure, to make sure that there is enough liquidity, like you have enough cash ready, so that if you have to do any payments, you don't default, you are not a defaulter in that, you make all your payments on time, right? And obviously in business, that this is the basic thing, that there is a risk. Every time there are some expenditures which are unforeseen, which may crop up suddenly, so you should be having enough cash flow or cash in order to meet such expenses. So financial planning is also for this, to have adequate liquidity to meet the sudden expenditures without any difficulty. E, to ensure optimal use of funds so that the business is neither starved of funds or nor has unnecessary surplus funds at any point of time. Now, financial planning is also to make sure that the funds are used optimally and adequately and in a utilized carefully, so that the business is not lacking in funds, and neither there is an a surplus of funds. It should be properly managed. Essentials of a sound financial plan. Now, obviously, you should have a very sound financial plan, a very good financial plan in order to run your business successfully. Now, what are the important things required for a good financial plan? A, the plan must be simple, right? Nowadays, you have a large variety of securities that can be issued to raise capital from the market, but it is considered better to confine to equity shares and simple fixed interest debentures. Like, this is what they're saying, that you can raise money from the public uh, with many things that we have learned earlier in earlier chapters, shares, debentures, and all that. But the best is to keep it simple, to stick to equity shares and simple fixed interest debentures which have fixed interest. B, it must take a long term view. Now, when you are estimating the capital needs of a firm, when you are deciding how much capital is required by a firm and raising the required funds, a long term view is necessary. You must always keep in mind, you don't see only how much fund you need currently. You always should have a long term view, like in the long run, in 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 5 years. Obviously, there is a gestation period, like when you start a company and when it starts running successfully, there is some time period taken in between. So you should keep that gestation period also in mind, and then you must decide how much capital is needed. It ensures that the plan fully provides for meeting the capital requirement on long-term basis and takes care of the changes in capital requirement from year to year. Because when till your business starts running successfully, you will be needing funds to give out the salaries, to buy the raw material and other expenses that are to be met. So you should always have a long-term view. Third, it must be flexible. The financial plan must be flexible. It should not be rigid. Whatever you planned earlier, it will continue, because it should not be rigid like that, because the situations can change. You don't know the future. There can be some unforeseen expenditures in future. So your financial plan should be flexible according to the situation and needs which may rise in the future. You should be able to change your plan. Fourth, it must ensure optimal use of funds. The plan should provide for raising reasonable amount of funds. As stated earlier, the business should neither be starved of funds nor have surplus funds. It must be strictly need-based, and every rupee raised should be effectively utilized. There should be no idle funds. Like a proper financial management is, there should be no lack of money, there should be no extra money, just how much is needed, that should be there, and every single rupee should be utilized effectively. Fifth, the cost of funds raised should be fully taken into account and kept at the lowest possible level. Obviously, to raise funds also, to give out shares and debentures also, there is some cost. So you should ensure that there is a minimum level of cost, right? It must be ensured that the cost of funds raised is reasonable. The plan should provide for a financial mix that is most economical in terms of cost of capital. Otherwise, it will adversely affect the return on shareholders' funds. Obviously, if the cost level rises, then obviously it's going to affect. No, where are you going to fill up the cost? Give make your expenses from the profit only. So it's going to affect the shareholders' funds also. F, Adequate liquidity must be ensured. This is what we said earlier also. Liquidity refers to the ability of a firm to make available the necessary amount of cash as and when required. It has to be ensured in order to avoid any embarrassment to the management and the loss of goodwill among the investors. Suppose you are not able to make some payments, then what will happen? You're going to your goodwill is lost, right? And plus you will be embarrassed because you are not able to do the payment. So you should have enough liquidity, enough cash, so that uh, whenever there are sudden expenditures, you are able to do the payments on time. Then we have importance of financial planning. First, it helps to estimate accurate requirement of funds. Now, obviously, when you plan out your finances, you'll be able to have an accurate estimation of how much funds are required by you. Second, it facilitates in developing a sound capital structure which gives maximum returns to shareholders. Third, it helps in proper utilization of funds. It tries to avoid shortage of funds and surplus of funds. It provides policies and procedures for coordinating different departments of an enterprise. It acts as a basis to control the financial activities of an organization, and it helps to face unforeseen financial situations in the business. Obviously, if you're going to plan out things, then it's going to be more fruitful. So financial planning is also important. It helps you to make an estimation of the funds and having a sound capital structure and utilizing your funds properly. In there will be no shortage or surplus of funds, right? So these are the importances of financial management.